All right, so we are here with Tim Rath. Tim, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
You're all echoey, and so am I.
Yeah, you might want to take your headphones out.
Need to take that. Oh man, it's.
Yeah, if you take them both off, I can hear it in the background, so you're good.
I wish that everybody could hear this.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay. I'm Tim. I work at the college.
What's your job at the college?
I'm the director of college communications. So I'm essentially the head of public relations on the campus.
What does that mean in layman's terms?
I like to say that if it was written and it was more than like 25 words, then I probably had something to do with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like an email that
You're
goes
pretty
out,
famous
or a
around
speech
campus.
that gets written, or something on social media, or something on the website.
Do you write speeches for anybody?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They just tell you to and you do it?
Yeah. Well,
kinda
not
neat.
anybody. I mean, I wouldn't do it for you. You know, you'd have to write your own speech. It's for an assignment.
That's funny.
But yeah, if someone else wants to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Autumn okay if we asked some questions about her?
Yeah, as long as they're not too specific. I might have to give you a no comment here and there.
Okay, but she was okay if we mentioned her.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what's it been like? Because Autumn's a student here. I didn't realize that until a couple days ago.
Yeah,
when
we
spoke.
should back up and tell.
Yeah, a little bit.
And let's talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm your first podcast guest.
Yeah,
What's the deal with the podcast?
Yeah, so this is a podcast being run by the Almanian, and I'm a part of the team, but I don't always write very many articles. And so I said, hey, can we have a podcast with faculty, staff, students, whoever's in the community, so we can hear each other's stories and,
That's
kind
really
of build
cool.
relationships with each other.
And who are you?
I'm Justice. I am a senior. I'm a psychology major. If you are a current freshman or sophomore, you definitely know who I am because I was an FYG. All the FYGs are pretty famous around campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't always know that kind of thing because I mostly just stay in my office and write these speeches, right?
Yeah.
You're way more on the ground than I am, as we say. So yeah. And how did we meet?
I think the first time we met, you asked me a question for something because I was in the CSO. And then another time we were taking pictures in the DI office.
Yeah.
There's been a few different, yeah.
Yeah. And then you asked me to be on the podcast.
Yeah, I sent out some emails to different professors and stuff. So if you're listening right now and you have an idea, you can just look me up on the portal. My name's Justice, Justice. Send me an email and tell me if you have an idea of somebody that could be on the podcast. I've emailed about 70 people about it, and now we've got a group of about 30 that consistently want to be doing it, so it's pretty cool.
They want to host a podcast?
No, they want to be on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm the first one.
You're the first one. You're the famous
Wow.
one. Yeah.
Wow.
Marking history. So, what is your job like? How is it different? Because a lot of students know people who work in like student affairs,
Sure.
but not as many know people like you who are kind of in the background.
Sure. So we tell the story of Alma College, right? The things that our students are doing, the things that our faculty are doing. This is all really interesting things that the public wants to know about, that they need to know about, right? So it's my job to tell them that, right? These stories are also instructive in a way, right? You are a psychology student, and you've had a number of experiences within the psychology office, and we're also here recording a podcast. This is something that if 17-year-old Justice were to hear this back in Rogers City,
Yeah.
right? Maybe they would want to come to this campus, right, in order to study psychology and record podcasts, right? So someone needs to, speak to these students like yourself, and speak to your faculty, and speak to administrators, and write these stories down and broadcast them out so that people know of them, right? There's also like an element of, so I just described the external focus, right? Like outside of the campus. There's also an internal focus, like I was telling you, like, I write speeches and emails and stuff like that. But personally, I think the bigger part of my job, maybe the more important part of my job, is external communications, as we say, getting that message out there far and wide.
Because you write things for the state too, right?
Not
For
not really.
legislators,
So Justice is talking about something that I did where I was writing on behalf of Alma College to send it to our legislators in Lansing, right? So I wasn't like writing on behalf of the state. I was writing to send it to our state government, and that was
That's
to,
still pretty fancy, though.
yeah.
A little bit.
It was advocacy, advocating for things to happen in our government. But no, I write a lot of things that appear in the newspaper, right? Like I'll write an article and I'll send it to the newspaper and they'll publish it. I'm the editor and the sole writer in the alumni magazine that goes off. So when you
The
graduate,
sole writer.
yeah. So when you graduate, you'll start receiving a magazine in the mail, and and that's all. That's my baby, as I say.
Wow. I didn't know there was only one writer for that. That's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Because isn't that quarterly?
Twice annually.
Twice annually.
Yeah.
That's different than the tartan then.
It is called the Tartan.
That is the same thing?
It's the Tartan. It's the Tartan magazine. Yeah. So that comes out twice a year. Yeah.
That's wild. Your name's probably in little print all over that, but I didn't know that. That's pretty wild.
I only published my name once in it. Actually, I got the idea when I started here that I didn't like my name appearing on the end of every article, which is not very journalistic of me. You'll appreciate that because you're with the Almanian. When you do something, right?
You want to brag about it.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I can't. But I decided not to brag about it. So my name only appears once. Yeah.
How did you end up getting this job? Like, what's your career been like up until this point?
Yeah. So I came from a career in journalism. So your listeners should appreciate that. Yeah. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in journalism. And I worked in media for 10 years. I did mostly local news, right?
Was that in Michigan?
Yeah, it was almost entirely in Michigan. I had a stint as a magazine editor in California, but that was really short. So yeah, I was going to city council meetings and the police station, and I was talking to all kinds of different people, doing all kinds of different stories for websites and for newspapers, right? And as I was telling you the other day, I was seeking something new.
Yeah.
after a decade in the business, my wife and I had bought a house in Alma, and I was looking to move on somewhere. I was thinking about maybe getting a job in Lansing, right down the road, somewhere in this realm of PR and communications, and a job opened up in Alma College. So after living in the city of Alma for about 9 months or so,
Wow.
there was a job that opened up right in my backyard, and
They were like, represent us, even though you're new. That's a pretty big deal.
that's what I told my boss when I was interviewing. When you're a journalist or a writer, as I am right now, you are working to improve your community, right? That's a message for all you Almanian students out there. You are improving this community with your journalism, right? So that's what I told my boss when I interviewed. I said it would really mean a lot to me if I could work to improve, because my job was an hour away from here. I was living in Elma, and I was driving an hour for work every day. If I could work to improve my local community here in Alma, then that would be a wonderful thing. And so, That's like the corny thing that I feel about my job is that I'm my through my work, through my words, I'm working to improve the Alma College community, and by virtue of that, the city of Alma and Gratiot County.
Do you have to be very careful with like your tone, because you're not only speaking to one group of people? That seems like it would be, like as an English minor, I'm thinking that would be kind of difficult to be, making sure things sound professional, but also you're gearing towards a bunch of different audiences.
Yeah, yeah. So that's something that we're very conscious of all the time at the college, right? Um, I might take a completely different tone when I'm doing something that's aimed at recruiting 17-year-olds,
That's what everybody says.
right?
Yeah.
Right? If and for that elaborating on that, right? A transfer student may desire a completely different message than that 17-year-old high school senior who's trying to decide on where they're going to college, right?
Yeah.
Someone from Rogers City might desire a completely different message than someone from Chicago, Illinois, right? If you're from Chicago, you can come to Michigan and you can study here, and you'll have a good time, right? Whereas you were already familiar with the state, so it wasn't too great of a leap for you to come here, right? I do writing that's focused on our alumni, right? So I will send emails and the Tartan magazine, that's primarily aimed at alumni. So I will write things in a completely different tone for alumni than I will for prospective students, as we call them, right? And I will for current students, right? Yeah, the number of audiences out there are almost infinite. And absolutely, it's really important to be careful, to tailor your message to those particular groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get to pick up like your own ideas for what you write, or is it mostly given to you?
Yeah, I do get to pick up a lot of ideas for what I write, and that comes from talking to people, right? Just as I did when I was a reporter, your best stories and ideas come from going around and talking to different students and faculty about what it is that they're doing. And you might hear about a really cool research project or something like that that's happening. You might hear about something that a student is doing that I can say, I can turn this into something, right? And then other times, a message will come from my supervisor, right? Tim, this is something that's coming up, and we need you to write about this. Yeah, something like homecoming. Yeah. I don't decide what happens at homecoming, right? So I need to talk to somebody about what's happening at homecoming so that I can act as the messenger and deliver that message out there. But yeah, I hear about. I do a lot of listening on this job.
Yeah.
It's just as much listening. It's more listening than it is talking.
Yeah, I feel like
writing.
whenever I see you around campus, you're listening intently with a piece of paper in front of you with somebody. How has your career been different than you thought it might be?
Oh wow. I'm not sure. I don't mean to deflect from the
No,
question,
it's
but
okay.
I'm not sure that I had any expectations going into my career. Yeah.
I remember you mentioned it's very like the same, but also always changing.
Yeah, absolutely. I started at Alma in 2020, right when the pandemic was starting, right? And I didn't see the inside of my office for about 6 months or so because we were all because we immediately started working from home. when I started working here. And then I think, Justice, you were on campus
Yeah,
at the
like
time?
right
Yeah,
after, right
yeah.
after that was my freshman year.
Right, right. And so you can probably speak to this better than I can, but there were a lot of everything was changing day in and day out, right? Yeah, yeah. And I was the one who was writing those emails to you that said
Oh my gosh.
you couldn't what was I telling
Yeah.
people? You couldn't
Can't have more than a certain number of people in a dorm.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This is what is open when to have food. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. There are probably a lot of students that dislike me and they don't know it.
No. That's funny. So
But yeah, I think my point is that it's that aspect of it. Things have kind of smoothed out, and I'm really grateful that I'm able to tell stories about things that students and faculty and staff are doing, as opposed to talking about the latest COVID restrictions, right?
yeah.
But yeah, as far as my career in general is concerned, I never really had any ideas. It's more like a means to an end, I suppose.
Yeah. Where did you get your undergrad degree?
Oakland University in Rochester. That's closer to where I'm from in the Metro Detroit area. I'm from Southfield. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that it's okay if we mention autumn a little bit. What's it been like being on this?
Yeah, you gotta explain, or
Yeah,
maybe I
so-
need to explain who
How about you
Autumn
explain?
is. Okay.
She's
So-
kind of famous to me personally.
Yeah, you can explain why she's famous to you. I was working here for about a year, and my wife said that she'd like to start going to school here, and that's a benefit that's offered to employees at this college, right? Our spouses can go to school here, and so so I was working here for a year, and she started going for her bachelor's degree. How do you know her? You should tell the folks at home
so-
how you know her.
Since I'm an English minor, I think I've only had 2 classes that she wasn't in.
Yeah.
And most of my classes have been with Dr. Vivian from the
Yeah.
English department. And when I was talking to you the other day in the CSO, because I work there, I was like, wait a minute, Autumn's your wife? Like,
Yeah.
my brain, it's cool because a lot of people are connected that you don't realize.
Yeah. So Autumn is. I'm not sure if I said her name. Yeah, her name is Autumn, and she's an English major, philosophy minor, and she's graduating in a couple of months, and I'm just so stinking proud of her. She's been at the college for 3 years now. And yeah, she tells me all kinds of stories. You come home from the end of the day. How was your day, dear? How was your day, dear? And she, true to her English major, something I love about her so much is that she's a masterful storyteller, and she always has been. Going back to her professional career before she started at the college, because Autumn's 33, 34 years old. I can't remember. But edit that part out. No. She worked, for 10 years before she, went to the college. And she would always have the best stories when she came home from work. And true to that experience, she comes home from school and tells me all kinds of wonderful stories. And she tells me about what Justice did in class, or a point that Justice made in class.
Yeah, her and
that
I
was
would have pretty heated. In Dr. Vivian's classes, a lot of times there's like a few students who are like button heads a lot
heated.
about whatever.
I didn't know that.
Maybe
Wow.
not heated. Maybe we have intense philosophical conversations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I
ask her
wasn't
about
aware
that.
of this. Yeah. Wow. Do you like her?
Yeah, she's really nice. That's why when I found out, I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Oh, I shouldn't have done this podcast if you didn't like my spouse.
No, it's okay. How did you guys meet each other?
Online.
Online?
Yeah.
What was it like when you first met? How long ago was that?
I didn't realize you were going to ask me questions
it's
about my
okay.
relationship. That's
If you don't-
okay.
if you don't
No,
want
it's
to.
totally fine. No. What was the question again?
What was it like when you first met? Like, how long ago was that?
I think it was about 8 years ago. Yeah, we've been married for 4, but yeah, I think we've been together for 8 or 9 years. Yeah. It was. Yeah, it was love at first sight.
You believe in that? That's cool. That's funny. That's really wonderful, though.
Yeah, I'll talk more about it offline.
Yeah, you both come back from school. I think that's really cool. That's an interesting.
Come back from.
From school at night, you come home and you're like, okay, so how was school?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What is something that you want Alma students to know? Because you have like some seriously vast job experience. Were you like a news anchor person or just a journalist?
No. So I wouldn't. I worked for newspapers, so I wasn't like in front
Not
of
just a journalist, obviously.
yeah, Almanian reporters and editors out there. You're not just journalists. You're very important. No, so I didn't do TV news, right? I worked for newspapers and websites, right? So I wasn't like a news anchor. Like I didn't appear on screen. If you know me at all, you know that I'm really camera shy, and I don't like being in front of groups or anything like that. I'm really feeling awkward about this podcast.
You're
No,
doing
kidding.
great. It's
Thank
so
you.
good.
No,
We're so
no.
good. We can edit it. It's
No,
so good.
but I was so I was a writer. I was a reporter, you know, and I was an editor for a time too. That was my last position before I came here. I was the editor of 3 newspapers. So.
What drove your decision to become a journalist?
Oh wow, that's going back a ways. You know, in the house that I grew up in, it was, you know, we weren't. I didn't grow up in a house that made its own decisions. If that, I'm phrasing that poorly, but you'll understand what I mean. You know, my father was he worked for an auto manufacturer, and my mother worked in a grocery store, right? So they weren't. You know, the most like powerful people in terms of you know, charting their own path and stuff like that. You know, powerful people made decisions, and it affected my family, right? And they were very cognizant of that, and they were smart people, and so they stayed abreast of the news in order to, you know, make the best decisions for their family, and to, you know, influence as much of their lives as they possibly could, right? You know, regardless of, you know, your lot in life, you know, it pays to be informed and to understand, you know, what's happening in the world and stuff. So that's just a really long way of saying that we always had a newspaper in the house, and that my parents were politically engaged and things like that, right? So I had a lot of respect for newspaper people growing up, and always really always was talented at writing. Was never much for STEM, and so I just kind of graduated or gravitated to doing that kind of thing. I started working for my student newspaper when I was in college. And absolutely loved it. I'm sure you'll agree that it's addictive. You know, you get engrossed in a community, and you know, you don't want to leave it. And so yeah, that kind of sealed the deal for me. That it was something that I wanted to devote a significant part of my life to. When I was in college, I said, okay, I want to, you know, try and be true to this degree, and, you know, work in media for some time after graduation. So.
What was your first job out of undergrad like?
I graduated in 2009, Justice.
That's pretty recent.
Yeah.
That's like really recent.
Yeah. In the middle of the Great Recession, right? When I say that there are no jobs, that there were no jobs available, respectfully, you don't know. You don't know how bad the economy was.
I was like 7 then. I have no idea.
Man, it was really rough, and I you know, not to, there were people who were hit much harder than I was, right? The only problem for me was that I couldn't get a job, right? But there were people who lost their jobs, and there were people who lost a lot of money and things like that. But, I'm not saying I was as bad off as they were, but for a solid year and a half, I would, do anything that I could, right? Um, I went to I found a job in South America as a writer. I went. I probably shouldn't say this on recording, but I took that job because someone told me that if you're abroad, then the whatever department it is, the Department of the Treasury or whatever, cannot come at you for loans, for your student loans. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay your student loans if you're abroad, right? So I was like, that sounds good. I'll take this job in Peru. So I went to Peru and was a writer for a little while. I moved to California to be a magazine editor, and I found that I much preferred Michigan. Yeah. I would take any writing job that I could, right? My first real job, I absolutely lucked into it. Someone who took a real shine to me for God knows what reason, and has remained a friend and a mentor for a long time since then. I mean, she gave me a chance, and so I was a real reporter with a full-time job in Metro Detroit. That was like a year and a half after I graduated from college. So, any of you seniors out there, it is okay to not have a job right out of college.
Yeah.
You'll be okay.
Yeah, that's something, especially every major, I'm pretty sure you have senior sem and they're like, apply for grad school, apply for a job, get a job, do this, and it's like really, really intimidating.
Yeah. I think to speak to that. They're well-intentioned, people. Whether you're talking about people in college.
Society.
Yeah. Whether they're people in college or people in your life, they're just trying to set you up for success, I'm sure, and not trying to make you feel bad or anything like that. But I'm here to tell you that it's okay. You'll find your niche. Even if it takes a little while to get there. Right.
Did you have the same major graduating as you did starting out in college?
No, I started out and I wanted to be an English teacher. I thought that would be a worthwhile career, and then I got in front of a room full of students. I did a little bit of student teaching, and I was terrified to be in front of a room full of sixth graders. I couldn't do it.
Honestly, that sounds intimidating.
Yeah.
Kind of cruel
So lots of respect to teachers out there. Yeah. But no, beyond that, it took a little while for me to find my footing, even in college. I was a transfer student, right? So I did 3 years at community college before moving on to Oakland, and in community college, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think you really declare majors there. So I was just like kind of doing my gen eds, and I didn't really have a plan solidified until I transferred. Yeah.
That's a good way to do it, though. Get your footing up, and yeah.
It was perfect for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I started out doing that in high school a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
it was like
wonderful.
4 credits, but
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Up in Rogers City.
Yep. If anybody listening knows where that is, I will literally give you a candy bar.
I know a lot about geography because you can talk to anybody. This is good advice for the journalists listening. You can talk to anybody if you know geography, right?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, think about it, right? I knew something about you, when we barely even met because I knew where you were from, right? And I know where that is on a map, I've talked to people from all over the world just because I know what the map is like, right?
Wow.
Oh, okay. Wow, you're from Ghana? Tell me how far away you are from Accra. It's the capital city, Justice.
Really?
Yeah.
You know a lot of stuff. I'm not surprised though.
You can study the map and you can learn all kinds of things from that thing, and then you'll be able to talk to anybody. I promise you. Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about your current position at Alma?
Not to repeat myself too much, but it's the okay. So the talking to people, right? I get to talk to all kinds of different people. But no, so I won't repeat myself, and I'll say that the communication and marketing office, it's a good group of people.
You're in a house. I feel like maybe some people don't know that.
Yeah, and people can come by and see us. It's at 317 Grant Avenue. It's behind the Zeta Sigma house,
Yeah.
right?
Nice place to study. Cozy little. It's got like a little living room and a little kitchenette.
We can't say that it's a good place to study.
There's one chair in the corner, and I remember when I visited you one time, I said that would be a nice place to go during midterms and just.
we got to say it on the podcast that you should not come to the communication and market office to study. There are wonderful places to study on campus. The Learning Commons is a great place, and we're here right now. You can study in the Learning Commons. You can study in SAC. You can study in all kinds of places, but don't come there. No, I'm
Unless
kidding.
you want to be interviewed.
Yeah. That's yeah. If you come to the office, then I reserve the right to talk to you for an hour, regardless of what you have going on that day. No, but yeah. So 317 Grant Avenue, Communication and Marketing Office. Come over and say hello and ask us what we do. Seriously, you can do that. But no, it's a talented group of people. Who work well together, and I'm not sure, like you were talking about a little while ago, I'm not sure if the student body at large really understands everything that goes into communication and marketing, right? We've got a wonderful graphic designer on our staff. We've got a wonderful social media person on our staff. We've got a wonderful person who administers the website on our staff. We've also got some really brilliant administrators in that office who guide the direction, the strategy. What are we going to tell prospective students, not only, in undergraduate, but graduate studies? What are we going to tell, what we were talking about a moment ago, undergraduates, out-of-state students, transfer students? We have different strategies for all of these people in print, in web, social media. It's very, very wide-ranging, and I think that it would be interesting to a lot of journalism students, because it's really tied in with that kind of thing. And it involves a lot of talking and listening, more important than talking, and understanding.
Yeah. How has your career, because you seem, and I admire this about you, you seriously value being informed. And that's something that nowadays we're getting information from like 80 different places. How does your being a journalist impact like the way that you view the world or the way that you go about your daily life differently than it might be for somebody who maybe isn't a journalist?
Oh, that's interesting. I probably annoy my friends and family quite a bit by asking questions and getting to the bottom of anything, right? Whether it's what did you do that day, or what went into this dish that we're having for dinner, or anything like that. I'd be interested to hear what a lawyer would have to say about this, because I imagine that that it's kind of similar. The questions, or someone, or like our pre-law students or faculty department chair would have to say about this, because I think that not only my past in journalism, but also my current position, I ask a lot of questions, right? And I try and really understand anything that I'm doing, right? Or anything that I see happening around me, and I don't stop asking questions until I understand things. it's a real blessing to have the patience and understanding of some people. I'll give a shout out to Professor Stuart Jensen in the physics department, right? I talk to him about his research sometimes, and I ask him, Professor Jensen, I am not a physics person. Forgive me for asking such elementary questions, about what you're doing. He's a brilliant man, and he's operating at a level in a stratosphere above me, right? But he is conscious enough and humane enough to meet me where I'm at and to put his research and his studies into terms that I can understand, and that is directly in line with what journalists do, right? And what I do in my career. Beyond that, I try and see things as objectively as I can, right? It really irritates my wife that I don't automatically take her side in any dispute that she's in. Apparently, this is. I did not get the message when you're in a long-term relationship that you're supposed to take your partner's side in any argument, right? That they have with someone else, but she might be telling me about some dispute that she's having, and I might say, "Are you sure that you're not in the wrong on this one?"
That's a good quality to have, I think, especially, being. You're very curious. You're a very curious person.
Yeah, yeah. I was that kid who was, being driven to school in the morning on the school bus, and I was like talking to the school bus driver, what do you want to be a school bus driver for?
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
I used to do that too. I always sat up front.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to the person at the checking you out at the grocery store. What are you doing when work is done? I'm not I'm not flirting with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
what's life about?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's not for everybody. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are not as curious as I am,
Yeah.
and I understand that completely. What does it matter how the water gets to this building? The only thing that matters is when you turn the tap on, water comes out. How is it that we're speaking into this microphone and
Yeah.
people are going to be able to listen to this? Who cares? All that matters is that you downloaded the podcast episode and you're listening to it right now. So I understand people who are coming at it from that point of view. That's another one more thing that I should say about how journalism's influenced me.
Yeah.
Right, is understanding, right? Because I've talked to people, from every social strata, right? In every race and gender and sexuality and so on and so forth. And it really builds something. Maybe empathy is the right word. Maybe it's the wrong word. But I've seen these people in bad times in their lives, and I've seen them in good times in their lives. And I do think that that journalists are naturally, or they should be, understanding of humanity.
Yeah, life's
Yeah.
concept, life situations that we end up in.
Yeah, absolutely. And in their own personal lives, not judgmental of things that people do. So because we've seen it all.
Yeah. How would you like to be remembered as a journalist, like in your career?
Oh boy. That's interesting, and I don't think anyone's asked me that. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
It's my favorite thing to ask people.
How would I like to be remembered? Well, responsible, with people's stories, right? I tried to take care and to tell their stories accurately and responsibly. I think that's good. They were willing to let me in, and I got in there. The other thing I guess that I think of is aggressive. Like I like to think that I was able to extract some stories that other people were not able to extract, right? Because I saw that there was something going on that was interesting, and I wanted to be heard, right? You know, that's another quality that's good for any journalist is just a desire to get those stories out there, and that requires some sense of aggression, right? Not to the point of help me out here, not disrespectful or inappropriate,
Yeah.
right? But if you're able to pick your spots and not necessarily take no for an answer, right? If this person doesn't want to answer my question, then who will answer my question, right? Holding those in power responsible for what decisions get made, stuff like that. I like to believe that I was able to do that. So responsible and aggressive, when these situations called for it. I told some stories, Justice, that there were people who didn't want those stories getting told, right? And that was a good thing for the community that I was serving, right? Yeah.
Wow. What are some
I could get into it, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't want it. You wouldn't want to hear
It's
it.
okay.
Trust me. No.
What are some
It's
important
like government stuff.
Yeah.
It's boring.
cool stuff for
Yeah.
for when we meet with Dr. Peterson at some point, maybe?
Yeah.
What are some important lessons that your job has taught you?
Oh wow. We might have to turn this off so that I can think about this.
Oh, you're so good. Take your time.
Yeah. Okay, we can turn it back on. Yeah, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but
You're consistent.
Yeah. Consistently bad.
No.
I think that probably what we went back to about writing for different audiences has been something that's been new to me in this position, right? Previously, as a journalist, you've got one audience. You, as a reporter for the Almanian, you're
Student body. That's it.
precisely, yeah, the student body of Alma College. What do they need to know? What do they want to know? What's important to them? Who are they? Right? That's pretty focused when you think about it, right? How many students do we have on this campus?
I don't even know, actually.
I probably should know, but
I think every class is like a few hundred.
I think it's about 1,200, 1,300 total, right? Yeah. So that's relatively small group of people, right? And your job is, as I see it anyway, and I think you agree with me, is to be laser focused, on those 1,300 people and what they need, Like I said a moment ago, my position has infinite possibilities. We pull students from every corner of the world to come to Alma College, and that's a beautiful thing. But that was all new to me when I came here, and that's been a learning curve, and it's been a wonderful learning curve to take on. It's been really, really interesting.
That's something I've never thought about.
Yeah.
That this would be the first time you were looking at different audiences. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Before, I was dedicated to different communities. I worked in a city called Big Rapids, and a city called Owasso, and a city called West Bloomfield, and I was dedicated to telling. It's pretty much the same thing. If you go on to work in media, you'll probably be reporting on government, you'll be reporting on crime, you'll be reporting on people, business and that kind of thing, and you don't really change your tone for that necessarily. You might take on a different tone for like a crime story versus a nice story about a family that's done something very sweet together.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that. I changed my tone for writing about those two different things. But it's a different ball game in my position. It's the difference between journalism and marketing, right?
Yeah. So technically, are you more the communication side?
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
but you're
the
kind of a little bit of both. It seems like that's kind of, you might be one of the few positions on campus where you have like such a broad scope that you're delivering to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But no, you were very astute in pointing out that difference, right? Because I work for the Office of Communication and Marketing, right? I'm the director of college communications, and I have a colleague who's the director of brand marketing. She's a brilliant person named Carrie Schranka, and if you talk to what her day to day is like, it's more along the lines of marketing, copy, and that kind of thing, and I'm doing more communications and the difference between and the subtle difference that exists
Yeah.
between those. But no, I mean you dip your toes into a few different waters. So I do a little bit of the marketing copy, and she does a little bit of the communication stuff too.
That's really neat.
Small office.
Yeah, very small office. If anybody listening visits, it's a house, but it's a pretty tiny
You
house.
really want people to come to the house.
I think it's fascinating because upstairs they took out the walls and there's like, it's almost like there should be a window there, but there's not. It's just open, so you can just look across the hallway and you can see somebody sitting. It's kind of cool.
Right. It's an open office environment, which was very in vogue when you were like 7 years old. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Every business, every office in the country in the late 2000s, it seemed they all got the memo that we should go to this open office. I don't know who's interested in listening to this. We should go to this. They should go to architecture people. They should go to this open office concept, and so
Yeah.
that's what we did. Yeah.
Is there anything that you think you'd like specifically for the campus community to hear or know about you, or any words of wisdom or anything before we go?
Oh wow.
And you take your time thinking.
Well, when is this going to come out?
I'm thinking probably next week.
Okay, so this is going to come out for graduation. Before graduation.
Yeah,
I should
yeah,
say.
definitely,
Yeah. I should say some words of wisdom for the graduating seniors, right? Keep working hard. Yeah. This is a great college to go to. I would have loved to have gone here. I wish I wish that I had thought of it, or that this option had been available to me, or whatever the situation was. I wish that I could have been a student here when I was young. It's a great school, and having that name on the diploma, that's going to take you
Oh, yeah.
pretty far, because employers, they know that Alma College is a great school, right?
Yeah.
But when you get that job, you gotta keep working hard, as hard as you ever worked, and not just rest on your laurels, right? Because your talent your talent, your diploma, it only gets you so far. But it's really wonderful to see our graduates move on and to do impressive things, and I'm sure that all of them were really hard workers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my advice for the graduating class.
That's wonderful. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for giving us your time.
I may have been speaking from personal experience, in which a little bit of regret, in which I didn't work as hard as I could have when I was younger, right? But that's advice. That's learn from my mistakes. Right?
Yeah.
I work very hard now.
That's why I like talking to other people, because you can learn about the different opportunities we have.
Well, this was a good podcast.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Was I a good first guest?
I think you did amazing. I think you did
Thanks.
wonderful.
Thanks.
So thank you so much again, and I will see you guys in the next episode.